Traded over here because of Sanchez success.
Here's a ground ball right side, could do it. The Houston Astros are world champions for the first time in franchise history.
As a Dodger fan, I almost no-showed this interview, but I figured I'd come just because you're such a class act. First of all, what have you come down from the high at all from the World Series, or are you still living it?
Still living it. You know, I actually, funny enough, I got a text message yesterday from a friend of mine who asking the same question, and I kind of just like stopped and like really smiled and just was like, oh my God. World Series champions. It really, I mean, I haven't had time to let it sink in yet. It's been this crazy roller coaster of a ride, but no, it hasn't really sunk in.
When you're going through it and you have the pressure and it's Game 7, do you allow yourself to start thinking about what would happen if you won, or is that a negative?
No, I mean, you do. You know, that day, actually, I had gone in and told our manager that I was available to pitch. So I was down in the bullpen for the end of the game, and I started thinking, I've never finished a game in my life in the bullpen. I don't know what to do. Do we just like sprint in? Like, do we need to get our stuff? It was really like I started thinking about it towards the very end because I mean, Charlie Morton was on the mound and he had it on lock. I mean, he was rolling and he was good to go. So it's kind of like, okay, I doubt I'm going to get in this game. What now? You know. So it just ended up being an all-out sprint and leaving everything back there. I don't even remember. I don't know where my glove is. I don't know where.
You never found it.
I have no idea where any of that stuff is.
So were you watching the game on TV from the bullpen, or you were watching it? Were you able to see?
Yeah, you could see.
Okay.
In Dodger Stadium, down the right field line is where the visiting bullpen is, and they had this chain link fence that you would open, and so you had a pretty clear view of what was going on.
That's great. Well, I wonder for you, like, you know, you were for those not familiar, you were traded right before the deadline, and you're traded into a pennant race. When you do that, and especially after being with Detroit for 12 years, did you feel a certain amount of pressure that you didn't feel in Detroit? You know, trying to fit in aside from just baseball.
Well, aside from baseball, yeah. I mean, I likened it to changing schools and, you know, walking into a brand new high school when you're a kid. I mean, you know nobody. You've competed against, you know, these guys for a lot of them for many years. And you just don't really know what to expect. Well, I think lucky for me, the day I showed up, it was in between a doubleheader. Yeah. They had the Astros had a doubleheader that day, and they had just won the first game. And I'm in my street clothes and kind of like show up in between and just kind of like slide into the locker room line. Like, you know, all the guys that had played that day and are out of the game, they're kind of waiting in the locker room for the rest of the team, giving high fives. So I just kind of like snuck in that line and was just kind of like putting my hands out. Half the guys didn't even see me, you know, they're just like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And half the guys were like, oh, Justin, hey, you know. So what a better way to meet your teammates than after a nice win like that. And then, you know, the rest of the day, getting to know guys, talking to them on the bench. And honestly, from top to bottom, like ownership all the way through every single person in that clubhouse really helped make my transition as easy as possible. Whether it was trying to find housing in Houston or just getting to know someone or having a connection at a dinner place, you know, all the things that you don't think of really that can really help make your transition easy. I'm serious. It was everybody kind of tagged in and helped make it as easy as possible.
Well, that's a testament to you too, because even your manager, A.J. Hinch, said, you know, when we got Justin, we knew we were getting a gamer, but we didn't realize what kind of a guy we were getting. We knew he was a good guy. We didn't realize just how much he would help galvanize. So was that something you actively tried to do, to you know, get to know guys and be a part of it?
Absolutely. You know, I think, you know, as a veteran, you start to understand the impact that you can have off the field with guys as well. And so the longer I've been in the game, the more important I realize that is, and you can have an active role in that. And this team had a lot of younger guys, a lot of younger pitchers that you know, I thought I could help, and really vice versa. I mean, I'm an open book. You know, I got things I can learn. I mean, they got some young guys that have some pretty incredible things that they can do with the baseball, and so I'm trying to learn from them. You know, just trying to fit in, try to not to cause a rift in the locker room. You know, just try to make it as seamless as possible and make everybody comfortable, and let's go play baseball. I mean, that's really what it was all about. And you know, having guys like Brian McCann, Carlos Beltran, Dallas Keuchel, you know, those guys, Reddick, those guys were kind of like the guys that had been around for a while and were kind of like the leaders, and you could see their footprints all across the locker room, especially Beltran and McCann. Those guys, I think, were an integral part to what we were able to do in Houston, and they had come on earlier in the season, obviously, than me, and I think their mentorship with a lot of the guys on that team was pretty evident when I got there.
When you were traded, and you how hard of a decision was it for you to waive no trade clause? Because you had been in Detroit for 13 years, won a Cy Young, been to the World Series, had so much success. Yeah,
that was honestly one of the most difficult decisions I've ever had to make. You know, they approached. I got a phone call and said, "We have a trade in place with the Houston Astros. You have to decide whether you'll be able to waive or decide if you want to waive your no trade." And this was like 40 minutes before the midnight deadline. And literally, like, when there's a midnight deadline, that paperwork has to be signed and into the commissioner's office. Otherwise, the whole thing's kiboshed. You can't, you know.
You saw that actually in the NFL, a trade that went through 4 minutes after.
Yeah.
No. So you had 40 minutes to decide.
I had 40 minutes to decide. And you know, a lot of people ask me over time, since that's happened, well, why weren't you prepared mentally for that decision? Because really, Houston was rumored throughout as a team that I could go to. Well, I felt I was doing a disservice to Detroit. If I were to start thinking about possibility of trade and not focusing on what I was doing on the mound for the Tigers, who is the team I had played for that long, I felt like I was doing a disservice to them. So I just kind of treated it all as background noise and didn't really think about what it would mean to uproot my life in that fashion. So when the phone call actually came, which earlier in that day I was told by our GM that it didn't look probable. So even more so, I just kind of shut it down. And then, you know, here comes a phone call at 11:20 at night saying, "Hey, decide." And I mean, if you can imagine, that was a pretty crazy 40 minutes, literally 40 minutes. I mean, I took every single second of it. I mean, I think there was a report that said the paperwork was filed with 2 seconds to go, 11:59:58. Wow. So,
you call your agent?
I called everybody.
Talk to your wife or girlfriend,
yeah.
Fiance at the time?
My fiance at the time, my current wife, yeah, she was there. Thank God. You know, it was. I called my agent. I'm somebody that likes information. Just give me all the information I can have, and then I can decide. So I'm just trying to gather as much as I can. I'm calling my agent. I got a call from Dallas Keuchel, who, in the whirlwind of things, I felt bad. I ended up telling him, "Hey, man, I appreciate the call, but I got to go." Right. And you know, the one thing that resonated with me that he said was, "Okay, man, I totally understand. I just want to tell you, you will not regret making this decision if you come to Houston." And then we hung up. And that kind of stuck with me. Talking with my now wife, she was there. And it comes down to a singular moment. And it was just her and I. I had kind of gotten all the information. It's, I don't know, 11:55 now, and maybe, I don't even, and I'm kind of pacing in our apartment. And I'm going, trust your instincts, you know, just kind of close your eyes, just what's your heart telling you? And I look at Kate and I go, I don't know what my instincts are telling me. And I just had nothing. And then finally, a little bit more pacing, and I just go, I go, screw it, we're going to Houston. And she was like, heck yeah, I'm kind of changing the language a little bit here. She's like, heck yeah, we are. And then that was it, decision made. And then we called our GM, said, we'll accept it. He thankfully had the foresight to have some members of the staff down in our hotel, in our apartment lobby, with the paperwork. Because I mean, if they weren't there, there's no way that we could have gotten this done in that time frame. But he had them waiting there, was able to go downstairs, sign the paperwork last second, and the rest is history.
Do you get on a flight the next day, and do you get a chance to say goodbye to your guys?
Great question. I don't know if I've actually talked about this. The Tigers that day had a doubleheader, and doubleheaders don't happen all that often. No. But coincidentally, they had a doubleheader that day, so there really wasn't a lot of time for me to, usually you go in before the game and everybody's in the locker room just kind of hanging out, and you'd have a chance to go all around and say hi to everybody. Well, The game started at 1. Usually guys get there at like, 8, 9, 10. Well, I didn't need to be there, so I'm sleeping in.
Maximize.
Right. So by the time I got there right about game time. Most of the guys were on the field, so I kind of waited when we were hitting, and just kind of went down in the tunnel right by the dugout and pulled in a bunch of guys out of the dugout and just said my goodbyes right there. I'd played with a lot of those guys for a long time, had some really good friendships, and it was not easy to say goodbye to those guys. And that's what made the decision to say yes so difficult. It wasn't a baseball decision. The baseball decision was an easy decision. It was the emotional decision that was so difficult. And then, so I got to say my goodbyes, and then we go to look at flights to Houston, and airport's still closed.
Of course.
The hurricane had literally just hit like 2 days before. And so we couldn't even fly in. I mean, this is how close this was to Hurricane Harvey hitting. So the airport opened the following day, so we were able to fly out 2 days after, which gave us a little time to kind of pack up a life's worth of stuff.
I just, we as fans, we get so invested into teams, but it's very easy, Justin, to forget about the people that make up the teams. And we think about players and athletes as like, we put them on a pedestal because you guys are so great, but there is that side of things that can make things so difficult, and that's when it becomes, this isn't necessarily just a business decision, but it becomes a personal decision, like you said, that goes way beyond baseball. Is that one of the hardest things you've had to do? I mean, obviously once you got there, it was great.
Yeah.
But was that as tough as, you said it was very difficult, but was that one of the hardest decisions you ever had to make, regardless of baseball?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I grew up in front of that city. I got there when I was 22 years old. Here I am, a 34-year-old man with a lot of things have changed in my life since I first got there, and those fans had really been a part of a lot of that. A lot of things in my life that were great, they had been a part of.
Cy Young, World Series.
Yeah, I mean, World Series in 2006, when, again, another city that Detroit was really struggling in 2006, when we went to the World Series that year, and, it was kind of one of those moments that a city really bonds with their sports team, that city will never forget it, and neither will I. I mean, I think I relished more this year going through that after Hurricane Harvey and being in Houston and knowing what it meant to go to a World Series because of my time back in Detroit and remembering what it meant to that city for a lot of people that were really struggling back then, and how us giving them something to cheer for and just kind of a little reprieve from whatever they had going on, what it meant to them.
That's the sports galvanizing factor.
Right.
We saw it with J.J. Watt. It can be very special. Before we get to some more fun stuff, last question, baseball-wise. Everybody says Justin Verlander, one of the great big game pitchers of our generation. And I've read that you've said things like, it's not sustainable, the mental approach it takes to be a great big game pitcher for the whole regular season. So what allows you to do it, and how hard is it to sustain it for even a few weeks?
It's difficult to put into words, really, the intense focus that you have. Not that I'm, like I said, not that I'm not focused on every regular game, but for whatever reason, it's like, people talk about being in the zone.
Yeah.
Well, that's being in the zone athletics-wise, and everything just kind of slows down. But it's kind of similar throughout the pace of the game. Baseball is such a different sport that you have this time to kind of like decompress. I go out there and I pitch. I sit down and decompress. I go out there and pitch. Hopefully 9 times I do that. So that in-between time is where, for me, I can really tell a difference. I can tell I'm a little more fatigued. I can tell mentally I'm a little more fatigued. Oftentimes I just forget what inning it is, which in season I know exactly where we're at. I know how many pitches I have. All these other, I know who's coming up in the lineup. I'm so focused on what I'm trying to do that I lose sight of a lot of other things that I'm normally focused on. And it's just, it's kind of I'll go ask, our catcher, like, hey, what inning are we in? Who's coming up? I don't even. It's just kind of like a tunnel vision.
See, I would have thought it would have been more so before starts. So you're saying in between innings, you have 10 minutes, let's say, for a half inning. That's when you're really locked in, and that's the thing that's maybe not as sustainable throughout the whole regular season.
Yeah, I think both on the field. Pregame is you try to keep the same as you do. You probably do a little more preparation. You have more time, but pregame, you try to keep your routine the exact same. That's what makes us comfortable as athletes. I think any great athlete has their routine. And so you kind of stick with that, keep yourself calm. And then once you get in game, the focus and intensity on the field is probably double. The best way I can liken it is I've felt physically and mentally when I come out of the third inning, it feels like I've thrown 6. If I come out of the sixth inning, it feels like I've thrown 12. Everything is like double. And then in between, it's that focus also. So it's just kind of it's a really cool feeling when you've been successful. Because I remember after the Yankees game in the ALCS, after the complete game, I came in the locker room. And everybody was so happy and celebratory, and I just literally slumped down in my chair and was just like mentally and physically exhausted. It was, and I just kind of like sat there and kind of took it all in, enjoyed it with my teammates, but in a different way. Just kind of tried to watch. It was a really cool experience.
That is really cool. I wonder, you guys win the World Series. I didn't realize. I knew you got married really soon after, but it was 2 days or 3 days after. You just told me you had it set up from a Thursday to Sunday situation. Yeah. You ended up flying 12 hours to Italy with Kate, and ultimately you got there the day before the wedding. So what was that like, and how much fun was it? Also, how tired were you? The whole thing.
All right. So, we started planning this wedding long ago.
Right.
And when we had the venue in Montalcino, and there's no change in that.
No.
So we literally thought, okay, there's only one thing that could possibly throw a wrench in all of this timing. And it's not just the World Series. It would have to be Game 7 of the World Series. Sure enough, here we are, Game 7 of the World Series. So, we were getting texts. Before the game started, I'm getting texts. Kate's getting texts from our family and friends saying, hey, your wedding's great. Wish you were here. It's like they're already at our venue, like ready to go, having dinners and
having some wine.
Yeah,
hanging out.
And we're still trying to win the World Series here. So we kept saying that no matter what happened, it's all for the right reason. This is so stressful. It's all stressful, but it's all good things, and it's for the right reasons that we're not there with our friends and family. Obviously, well. We kept saying that to one another, but then after, when we got on the flight, it was like, thank God we won. Because if we lost, that would have been the most miserable 12-hour flight ever. And then you got to flip the script and be happy for your wedding. It would have been crazy. But as the story goes, it couldn't have gone any better. We win the World Series, celebrate, next day, hop on a plane. We're going all the way over to where everybody's already at in Montalcino, and
your parents are at
everybody is there. And we show up to the venue, and we show up, and we had a game day where everybody's kind of having fun, and the day before the wedding, and everybody's kind of dressed up in like sports gear and kind of doing fun activities. And we literally showed up like right in the middle of it, and
to your own wedding.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Everybody's already out there, and we show up right in the middle of it and kind of stroll out. And it couldn't have been any better. Like everybody was there when we got there, and everybody like cheered and.
Right.
We met, said hello to everybody, and then just kind of like joined in on the party. Looking back at it, it was the craziest. To me, what felt like 2 days because we missed a day travel-wise, but 3 days that I think anybody could have ever had.
Did you guys have a honeymoon? Did you stay in Italy, or?
We stayed in Italy. Yeah, we went down a little further south, and just kind of went down the countryside, and just decompressed a little bit.
Now that you're doing media, you're on Today's Show, you're going to do Fallon tonight, you're here at AOL. At what point will you reconnect with your own teammates and say, "Hey guys, like this was so awesome"? Have you done that yet, or will will you do that?
I think in text messages we kind of stay connected, but sports is kind of funny. We're such a family for so long. We spend more time together than we do with our families, and then all of a sudden it ends, and everybody's like, okay, well, let's go spend time with our families. So you just kind of stay connected with phone calls now and again and text messages. I plan on spending a little bit of time in Houston, going back and seeing some of the guys stay in the area, reconnecting with them. It's kind of like when you're in a town that those friends and teammates are in, that's when you reconnect with them.
You were super fired up when you saw Jose got the MVP. Yeah. For those who don't know, Jose Altuve, he might be 5'7". The guy
maybe
170 pounds soaking wet.
Yeah.
not only an incredible player, but truly one of the great guys. He wins the MVP. There's a picture of him and Aaron Judge. Judge is 6'7", 260, and the dichotomy is incredible. When you saw Jose won it, just describe how excited you were for him. Did you reach out to him?
Yeah, I did reach out to him to congratulate him. He was very thankful of that. But personally, I couldn't have been happier for him. Even in the short time we were together as teammates, I saw what a great teammate he is, how hard he works, how talented he is, and I think that's one of the best compliments that I can give a fellow teammate whom I've competed against for years, is that he was better than I thought he was. Seeing him play every day,
You knew he was good.
I knew he was great, but seeing him play every day makes you appreciate more how talented he is, and that's kind of what I think is one of the best compliments you can give a baseball player. But as a person, as a teammate, man, the guy, he deserves it. He's so much fun. He loves playing the game of baseball. He's just out there playing a game, and he just happens to be extremely good at it. And this year he's the best.
Before we go to the audience, that's the sense that everybody got, and that's why I think, aside from the fact that it was Hurricane Harvey and America, including myself, almost rooted for you guys because not only that, but there was such a great sense around your team that young guys, hungry guys, good guys, and there was a great galvanizing factor there. Lastly, for you, Justin, was this the most fun team you had going back even before the major leagues? How does it compare, aside from the winning, just the people around it and your whole organization?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I heard you mention that you almost rooted for him.
I almost did as a Dodger fan.
Not quite.
I was so fired up because the whole thing just felt good.
Yeah.
And I was so excited for you and just the whole club.
Yeah. It was one of the most fun times I've had as a baseball player in my entire life. I mean, this is going way back since I was 5 years old. Yeah. Just stepping into a clubhouse, sometimes the hitting the reset button and kind of refreshing all of your scenery is a good thing, and it's something I didn't think about when I was making that decision, but it was new and exciting for me, for everybody. Everybody in the organization wasn't used to me, and vice versa. So that's something that can be refreshing and open up some new worlds to you, and maybe change your routine a little bit. But man, the guys, you talk about the energy, the atmosphere, all these.
You could feel it.
I mean, you really could. I thought it was tangible. I've had people come to me just randomly and say, like, they felt it just watching on TV. You can see it and feel it, like how bonded we were, how much these guys wanted it, how excited they were to just play the game of baseball. I mean, all the things that you want to be a part of, man. This team had it. Great group of guys. I mean, I couldn't have asked to step in. Like I said, man, these guys made me feel like I was at home in 1 or 2 days within stepping into a brand new locker room, having been somewhere else for 13 years. So a pretty special group of guys that, looking back now, I mean, what a decision that was to accept the trade, because it was the best moment of my career.
Love it. Questions, audience?
Great.
Yeah.
Hey, Justin. So the Mets just hired renowned pitching coach Mickey Callaway, and he said something either last week or so that he's going to really monitor his starting pitchers and only have them go maybe 2 times through the batting order. So as someone like you who builds as you go, you get stronger, like you're throwing 100 like late in the games. How does that make you feel as someone who's like is a workhorse kind of guy, if they're going to cut pitchers off after, say, 5 innings, make 5 innings a good start now?
Terrifies me. I hate that idea, but for me, I think him coming into that situation, I think he's looking at the history of those pitchers and saying they've all been getting hurt. So the workload for them has been a bit of an issue. So I think he's just trying to keep his team healthy in that fashion. Houston, some of their guys, they have some of that mentality as well, and that was a concern. That was one of the concerns I had when I accepted the trade. So I sat down with AJ Hinch when we first got there. We had a meeting, and he talked to me candidly. It was like, look, we don't plan to use you as a 2-time through the lineup type guy. He goes, you've your whole career, you've gotten stronger as you go along, and we're going to use you that way. And I was very glad to hear that. I mean, I take a lot of pride in just pitching, just being out there, using my gift, which is getting stronger, and being out there for 120, 125 pitches, and saving our bullpen every 5 days, and doing whatever I can to get deep into a game. those things mean a lot to me. But the game is changing. I think one of the things that's going to happen if baseball doesn't expand their rosters by one guy is bullpens are just going to get burnt out. I mean, it's hard to sustain going to your bullpen early, third time through the lineup on a nightly basis. I mean, it's just I don't think that those guys can wear that throughout a 162 game season. I think they get tired towards the end of the year, and that's when it has its biggest effect.
Morning, Justin.
Nice shirt.
Thank you. So when you posted that Instagram video of Jose Altuve saying, "I literally love Justin Verlander," did you have any idea that it would become such a meme almost?
No, I had no idea. I mean, that's just Jose being Jose. I mean, he's that's just his personality. He's so fun-loving and genuinely loves his teammates. And, I could feel the love, It's literally, it's just it's kind of one of those moments that I think the reason that it got so big is because people realized that it was real. Just a real emotion between two great friends that had become friends so quickly, and we're on this path to try to win a championship.
Hi, Justin.
Hi.
So my brother Josh is a Division III baseball player, and he doesn't get off the bench very much. Do you have any advice for him?
Yes, actually. So growing up my entire life, especially up through high school, I was never like the top tier, the number one pitcher, especially if you kind of took a bigger bubble and got outside my small hometown. Like some of the travel teams and stuff. So I just played the game because I loved it. And I enjoyed being out there with my friends, my teammates, playing the game of baseball. And I got lucky and grew into myself in college. But, if you're playing the game for the right reason and just having fun doing it, that's what this game's all about. It's obviously, everybody knows it's a very small percentage of people that actually make it all the way. So I think you enjoy the ride as far as it takes you. He's playing D3, he's playing college baseball. That's farther than a lot of people make it. So just have fun, enjoy the moments. I think the friendships and teammates that you have, that you create along the way, can create lifelong bonds. So I think just having fun and recognizing the friends that you have around you.
Justin, I want to thank you. This was fantastic, and class act. Appreciate it. And I got a chance to meet a lot of athletes. Very few have the raw honesty and the authenticity. So I appreciate it on behalf of all of us here. Thank you. Congratulations. And when do you get your ring?
That's a good question. I don't even know. I know I got this ring, which is the only one that matters right now.
You got the only one.
Yeah, we'll get the big ring. I think next year.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.